I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the wipeout election. Democrats had a good night last night, and I'm not surprised. I know a lot of people are upset. I immediately did a video after the results of Virginia came in, did a TikTok, and then I shared it on Facebook, and I started getting quite a bit of traction. And man, there's a lot of people in Virginia who are very upset about it, but I sadly cannot say that I'm surprised, and I was concerned about just different policies from like on the federal level dealing with the White House and Doge cuts and other things like that, how it was going to play into Virginia, and of course the lockdowns and other things like that. And of course it is actually a blue state, so there was some hope in New Jersey, but that was swung the Democrats' way. And of course in New York you have Mom Donnie who pulled out that victory, and they did not have good choices. And you know, the affluent, I guess, white women came out. I guess not them, but you know, there's a lot of immigrants and stuff who came out. The advanced degree people, it's just the exit polling stuff is kind of fun to look at. And in California, they passed Prop 50, which is really interesting because a large amount of people don't actually want what they voted for. So we'll be talking about that. And as the results are rolling in, I'm seeing people online on the right who are like, aha, look at all you people who are doing all this infighting for the past few weeks. And look what happened. And you should have been focused on other stuff, which some of these people are complaining about. People who are complaining about some of the people were complaining about people who were doing the infighting also weren't pushing to try to get candidates elected. And there's only so much stuff people can do from behind a microphone. People have to actually go out and knock doors and do some ground game stuff. You can't just wait for Scott Pressler to do that. Where's the RNC? Where's the state parties? You know, and then Republicans are just like severely outspent all the time. All the time. They're severely outspent. And if we're going to be outspent, we have to outwork them. It's just the reality. There's a scripture in the Bible that says like money answereth all things. There's a reason for that because you could do so much with money. But if you don't have the capital, you have to make up for it in other ways. And a Tim Pool podcast isn't going to necessarily do, neither is a Ben Shapiro podcast, and neither is a lot of Trump rallies or tele rally or whatever. So we'll be talking about that and where do we go from here and what's the indications, you know, for the future and so on. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com to get different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate because it does cost a stream. Run my website, all that good stuff. So you guys can support it. Very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. I got a big thing coming up and I haven't like announced it really on air and stuff, but you guys will find out sooner or later. Someone asked what's the name of my lipstick. It's a lip stain, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a lip stain. It's not a lipstick. And I got into lip stains. I'll find a link and I'll post it somewhere. I got into lip stains because I was sick of like going live and I'd drink something and then there'd be lipstick on my teeth. So the lip stain dries really fast and it doesn't really smudge like that. And it stays on. So it's kind of a, you know, you got to scrub to get it off at the end of the night. But it's good. I've been using very rarely now, like if I run, I'll have to run out of lip stain to not use lip stain. I've been using lip stain for a while. So that's the answer, but I'll try to figure it out. And someone said it makes me shine. Oh, I've become kind of notorious. People were realized that I kept wearing red lipstick, and my sisters was like, "Ooh, she putting on the red lip," and then then it just became a signature. Now I don't use other shades. It's just some kind of shade of red. So, um, I'll um, I'll I'll find it and probably post it. This person asked was on Twitch. I guess I'll try to post it on Facebook and YouTube and maybe Twitter or something. But I don't know a way to do it on Twitch. I've not spent this stuff streams out to Twitch, but I have not shared a lot of love on the Twitch page. Thank you for viewing and being here. But I'm streaming across Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch at the same time every time I go live. So you guys can't see all the comments from each other, but that's what's happening. That's what's going on. Anyway, I got some big things going on, so if you guys can support, I am asking that you go to the website and that you do donate and that you do support. There's a link in the description that will lead to a donate page. I thank you if you guys are able to do that. You guys can also do super chats. You guys can also do stars from Facebook. You guys can also go to the website and check out different merch. And that's a good way to also support, or just sometimes just commenting and sharing and letting other people know about black tea. That does also really help as well. And I do also encourage you guys to check out my book Bigger, which I don't have one on hand except for this one over here. That this is my proof copy from Amazon, so I'm sorry about the ugly strip here, but you guys can pick this up in paperback and hardcover. There's a link in the description. I'll take you to my website, ninjadustpublishing.com, as well, where you guys can find this and pick it up. I'm a little surprised by how many people I have more paperback in stock than I had hardcover. One, the hardcovers are more expensive to make, so of course they're more expensive to buy. And I just thought more people would buy paperback, but people really love the hardcover. The color on the paper, I mean, they look good on both things, but I think it looks really rich on also the paperback. So anyway, either option that you guys want is good. Also, my sister, who I keep sharing her art, Tina's Text Portraits, she did decide to run a sale because I keep talking about her stuff. And since I kept showing it, she's like, oh, let me run a sale. So I think it's 15% off. So it's tinastextportraits.com. And let me just click over really quick so you guys know what I'm talking about if you're unaware. So she does these text portraits where she will write a phrase or a name over and over and over again and create an image. So for example, this is her Jesus. It's made out of the scripture John 3:16. So that is available. She has prints on her website. So I think it's 15%, maybe it's 20%. It's let's just say 15% to be safe. And if it's 20, we'll call it a happy little surprise. And there might be a code. I don't know if it's automatic. Give me 1 second. I will see, because I know she posted it on something. I don't think she's in the comments. She's not. Okay, it is get 15%. Yeah, there's a code. You can get 15% off the prints with the code fall 2025 at checkout. Fall 2025 will get you an additional will get you 15% off of the prints. So there's Jesus, there's MLK, there's Abraham Lincoln, and of course there's this awesome Donald Trump. He actually does have this. It's kind of a funny, messed up story, to be frank, and I'll have to tell it another day. but they people are like, oh, tag Trump. This would be a great Christmas present. Let's just say he already has it. And she's got a bunch of stuff. Keanu Reeves. She's got Miles Morales, other Marvel stuff, Jokers, whatnot. So you guys can check her out. Her website is tinastextportraits.com. And again, you get 15% off with the code fall2025. So you guys can pick that up. And the last thing I will mention is that today is the last day I'll be streaming of the week because I got some places to go and things to do. So I'll just leave it at that, and you guys can find out some more about it after the fact, but you'll just have to just wait for me to return. But I'll still be like posting other things here or there. So just make sure that you're watching my socials on my Facebook and my TikTok and my YouTube and so on. Anyway, that was the last announcement. Let's get into the actual news and the tea of the day. So bloodbath. Bloodbath. So I'm not surprised, and people in the comments are also like, I'm not surprised about Virginia. I know people are sad because they really do like Winsome Sears. Some people are a little baffled, like the NAACP and all Obama and all these people who claim that they love diversity, etc. So and so and so, they throw that out of the window when the Black person in question is a Republican, and of course they're going to support their team, and that's just how it is. They're going to support their team. The Democrats pretend like they care about race and diversity and your background and immigrants and all that stuff so much, but if you don't, the reality is if you don't share their ideology, then they not one of us, they not like us, or whatever, you traitor, Uncle Tom, other things. But you're what's important is that you have their ideology, and that's fine. I think we should be joining together and grouping together based off of, shared ideas, right? But to pretend like all these other things are so important, like this hierarchy of oppression and the background and diversity and stuff, they act like it's this like there's virtue in it itself. But if you don't have those values, they just kind of throw it out of the window. And so to me, it's what I've observed is that Democrats, they talk about race and other things like that, but it's not actually as important to them as they make it seem. And the Republicans and stuff will downplay it, but it's more important to them than they let on. So I think there's a lot of nuance you can have with these different conversations. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Obama went and really fought hard for the white woman instead of the Black woman. I'm not surprised about that. Not at all. I'm not surprised about the NAACP and all these different groups like supporting the Democrat. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. An interesting story. If you haven't seen the Created Equal documentary on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, you could watch it on the Daily Wire. If you haven't seen it, you might be able to watch it on Amazon or some other place, but I watched it on the Daily Wire, and it was interesting because they kind of had like the different civil rights groups or whatever had an agreement, I guess a gentleman's sort of agreement at first, like they wouldn't attack Clarence Thomas, but the women's groups wanted to attack him because they knew that he'd be a danger to abortion issues. So they needed the Black groups to attack him so the white women could have permission to then go and attack the Black man ruthlessly. It's very interesting. So they went ahead and attacked him. So and the rest is history. And once they had that cover, they could go ahead and go after Clarence Thomas as ruthlessly as they did. So there's when people talk, I really hate when people use like the phrase people of color and stuff, because they act like there's such unity in that, like we have to stick together as POCs and blah blah blah. And when it's just one, it's just really a way to X out the white people. And I'm like, not all people of color share similar cultural, I don't know, identities or experiences and other things like that. Or just because you're Asian doesn't mean that you know what it's like to be Black. And there are things that I have more in common with a white person in my neighborhood than this person of a different ethnicity who might, like an Indian kid who might be in the suburbs or something, so it's just this grouping always seemed kind of strange to me, especially when a lot of it is just like everybody but the white folks, I guess, but also there is no kind of camaraderie with people who use different rhetoric about stressing how important it is to be a POC when it comes to politics. It's just again all thrown out of the window. But anyway, why did I think that she had a slim chance? From my understanding, I've seen Winsome Sears in bursts. I've seen her give some good speeches here or there. Some people who observed her more, I guess, on the ground and stuff, don't think that she's like a great politician. But she won the primary and stuff, and she's a lieutenant governor. What can you do? And so they think that maybe it wasn't the best for her to run. And you might be thinking, no, she's a Black woman immigrant, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, that might tug at the heartstrings for, I don't know, some Republican voters, but the Democrats are going to vote blue no matter who, and it's going to be very hard for them, even if they see a Black person, even if they see a woman, to go ahead and vote for that person anyway. So, someone made the point last night, like everybody obsessing like with this cultural stuff or different identity markers, it's not going to cross over. Like maybe we care about it on the right a little bit more, again, more than we let on, but the Democrats actually care about it a lot less than they let on. So just because the idea that, oh, that person is Black, let's help get them through the primary because then they're going to just do great in the general. I don't maybe that helps a little bit, but not at the end of the day, not really, especially where people are very ideologically driven. So that's something to think about. If you're like, oh, well, we just thought this Black woman, they don't, it's going to be vote blue no matter who. That's the most important thing. But earlier in the year, when Elon was still at the White House, and they were doing Doge cuts, and Trump wanted to lay off a lot of people in the government and all kinds of different stuff, cutting different down, organize different departments and other things like that, trying to save money where they can, try and making people, not making people, but trying to get them to do early retirement and so on. I knew that wasn't going to play great in Virginia, and it was going to be hard for Winsome Sears, who I do like, to climb up that hill, because there's a lot of people who do work in DC who live in Virginia, or their livelihood somehow connects to DC stuff. So you're cutting off a lot of people's bread and butter, and that impacts their bottom line, that impacts how they feed their kids. So you could think that, like, yeah, it's good to shrink the government, but a lot of people, that's how they make their livelihood, off of government jobs. There's some people who they know their particular jobs don't need to exist, but they get paid a lot of money. So maybe they can intellectually understand cutting back certain things. But at the same time, if that's how you made your career and that's how you want to retire with your good government benefits, and here comes Elon Musk, saying you don't deserve to have a job anymore, that the job shouldn't exist anymore, it just causes a lot of issues. So I that brings me no joy to like admit and to add that perspective on there, but that was just something early on in the year that me and my eldest sister, we were talking about politics and how we thought that was going to impact the race. Another thing that's really important to note is that the government shutdown does impact the race. It's amazing to me how many people are willing to let Democrats get away with the narrative, oh, it's Trump's shutdown. Trump is the one in charge. Oh, the Republicans have all the seats of government. So, okay, but Trump is waiting to sign this stuff. Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republicans in the House, passed the CR, the clean CR that Democrats have voted for multiple times. And they don't have enough votes in the Senate. Unless they kill the filibuster, which Trump is throwing out there now. I don't think he should let the Democrats bait him into it, because they won't like it for the short term, but things are certainly going to flip sooner or later. They've been trying to, get rid of filibusters for a while. I don't think he should succumb to that temptation, especially because there were rumblings that Democrats, actually Hakeem Jeffries and maybe Schumer too, sent out a letter to Trump wanting to negotiate to end the lockdowns. So they probably want some kind of concession on the Obamacare stuff, or something that looks like Trump made some kind of concession, so they can go like, oh well, we fought hard, we stood our ground, and now we can reopen the government, to make it seem like they had a point to all this. But the point to all this, I think, really was they wanted to have some election interference. Again, federal workers, a lot of people in Virginia, work for the federal government. There's people not getting paid. It affects them. And they want change. They're annoyed. And a lot of people are believing this narrative. It's amazing to me how many people post stupid comments about how this is on Trump, this is on the Republicans, you better get your Republicans. Like, my sister was talking to somebody the other day, a friend of hers, like, oh, because of your boy and all this. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, this is not Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. So people don't care. People don't care. So I think the reason that they wanted to keep the shutdown going on for so long is to impact the election. So they can keep pointing the finger and saying Trump is the one who's not giving you SNAP benefits, even though the Democrats voted against funding SNAP all this time. They wanted to say, it was funny, like they're like, no, Trump can actually fund it. He has the power to do it. He has the power to do it. And Trump's like, how do I have the power to do it? Like, the lawyers are saying I don't have the power to do it. I need the court. If the court's going to make me, the court needs to explain how I have the power to do it. Like, what's the guidance? Like, what do you mean I have the power to do it? I'm no king, guys. You won't vote to fund the government. How can I do this thing? But it's funny because they didn't want him reallocating funds and moving it around to pay for troops. So they just really, really, really didn't want him to have any wins on this. I think Republicans should still stand their ground and not do anything with the filibuster. They shouldn't give the Democrats like concessions on the stuff that they want. They should just vote for the clean CR. And it's funny that we're all like, just vote for the clean CR, because in any other circumstance, we'd be like, no, y'all need to lower the level of spending, and the Biden level spending is too much. That's what the conversation should be on the right. But right now, we just want them to fund it to get the stuff open. It's crazy to me that there's people working like TSA agents, people who handle airplanes, who aren't getting paid. That's insane to me. That's insane to me. And I saw a clip on CNN last night. It ticked me off so bad. I saw it on TikTok, so I don't have to pull that up. And I don't know the name of a woman. She had glasses. She's on. I've seen her on CNN a few times, but she has long braids, and she's light skinned. She's probably like I don't know, maybe she's about my complexion. And she said something she dismissed like the TSA agents and stuff. And she's like, but my community and other, they want to know about these food stamps and stuff. And I was so mad how dismissive she was about it. I think that it's okay that there are, programs to help people in need who like really need it, with SNAP and Medicare and all this other different stuff. But I do want to point out that that's not the government's job is to defend your liberties, and not necessarily to do all this stuff that we spend a lot of our money on. I'm not saying that listen, I'm not advocating that they get rid of all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. At least I'm not trying to make that case today. But when you have employees and they're doing a job, You are obligated to pay them if that's like the agreement that you all made. And people going on to work, and from my understanding, there's certain jobs like people can't strike and you can and can't really quit or whatever, and they want when everything's to come back on to get their back pay. So they're putting gas in their car, they're going to their job, they still were paying for lunch and all the other kind of stuff. They still have a mortgage, they still have a family to take care of, and they're not getting paid. I think to dismiss them and to not care about these people who are doing their job and not getting paid, but to be like, oh well, the SNAP benefits, to me that is so insane, especially because you could take care of both by just voting for the CR and funding the government. But they're so stuck on this narrative. They're so stuck on this narrative. But I think that hurt Republicans too. And I think there's like other things that Trump has done that people don't like. The tariffs. I would assume the Supreme Court is probably going to strike down some of his authority on the tariffs as far as trying to use them in an emergency. And that will probably work to his benefit, to be honest. Um, um, there's the immigration issue. There's a lot of people who don't like it and saying he's kidnapping people and all this other kind of stuff. Of course, there's a lot of people who are like, nah, it's great that they're taking bad people off the street, people who are, taking advantage of the country's resources, who had false asylum claims or whatever and really came over for economic reasons and not really because they were in fear of their life, and it's good that, Trump is doing all that stuff. Um, but you guys know that the media and the Democrats have had some crazy narratives and stunts that they have pulled. And we're talking about elections that happen in blue areas in Virginia and New Jersey. And, that kind of stuff maybe didn't play well, you know? And then Trump getting so involved vocally, like for the New York race. There's a lot of Republicans who love Trump, really love him. And there's a lot who just really kind of tolerate him, or maybe they like his policies, but they like, ugh, with some of the other antics and stuff that he does. And there's people who like really don't like him, but they still voted for him anyway. Um, but Trump drives a lot of people on the left crazy, and he can turn out against him on the left. Just like people are trying to use like Zoran Mamdani or AOC or Rashida Tlaib. People have nothing to do with those people. They're not even in the same state, but they'll put them on emails to try to get funds to try to defeat, to raise money and whatnot, because certain people are so toxic. Trump is like that for the left. So they had the energy, they had money, they outspent Republicans by a lot. I've heard different people say that they got all kinds of different phone calls nonstop from Democrats and not so much from the GOP. And Scott Presler, can go and try to do ground game and register Republicans and all that different stuff, register Jewish voters in New York and hope to make a difference. But the reality of the situation is that you do need certain infrastructure. And I don't think the programs are probably what they were in the past. And I know they weren't in 2024 because they were, surrendering a lot of that power or whatever in responsibility at a turning point. And people had a lot of concerns. I had concerns. And I'm glad that it worked out, as in Trump won and Turning Point did a lot of good. But you still should have that infrastructure. They should be working with each other or working at the same time, but we shouldn't have like one and not the other. So I think there's probably some infrastructure issues on why there are losses too. But again, I don't want people to be super discouraged. These are blue areas that we're talking about. Now in Georgia, there was an upset and a flip of like a special election where Democrats won that. So that is concerning. So Republicans kind of need to not be terminally online and get back to like the business of really solving people's problems or helping people be able to solve their own problems is um creating the opportunities for people to do that. So yeah, it's a bloodbath. Zoran Mamdani had a kind of a wonky speech that wasn't so aspirational, and you had different folks who didn't love it so much. So we can play a little bit of those clips. I'm not surprised. I am my again, my hope is that people voted for Zoran knowing who he is and what he is, and that's just kind of where the country is, or like where New York is, and our youth is. That's a scary thing to think about, but I'd rather people be foolish and still vote informed than just be foolish and misinformed by the media and be all surprised like, oh my gosh, I didn't know he was a communist. Like, if you know he's a communist, you're like, well, yeah, I'm a communist too, and you voted for him, and you're like, well, I don't care, I just want the free buses, I just want the rent free, which he's not, you know, a lot of that, the promises or whatever he made are like, vote for me to be the head of the school council and you'll get ice cream every Friday, kind of, cheap promises. Um but here we go.
I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude.
So
Govern in prose. If that must be true, govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great.
Ooh. I know there's Democrats who don't want this to be the future of their party. Um, but that's kind of like a bulldozer sort of speech right there. About how the working class felt like they're left behind, which is a, a, a reason why so many blue collar Dems or whatever, in areas like in Michigan where I live in, like Macomb. I don't live in Macomb, but I live close to Macomb. But they decided to give Trump a shot and so on, and that flipped from blue to red. So there's a lot of people who feel like the Democrats are now the party of the champagne elites, which they are, and that's who a lot of these people who voted for Mamdani like voted for him. People who know how the economy and bills and all those things work did not support him. But him saying like we're them kind of having a bit of like a populist movement and trying to appeal to those people and saying you don't have to go to those people. The typical Democrats of the past have failed. We won't fail you, and we have to reject that. And they're push forward with this democratic socialism, which Bernie Sanders tried to do but failed. And AOC is still around, and he's been touring with AOC, and AOC will probably make a presidential run. And being the mayor of New York, that props you up to some. I mean, obviously he's a national. Zoran is a national conversation, and he's going to continue to be one. And if Democrats do not pull away from this radical ideology, he is just going to be kind of the face, and this is going to be their future. And we're not in a good spot if that's the case. And it might already kind of be too late, because here he is, the mayor of New York, our upcoming mayor, the mayor-elect. It's not a good thing. And the Democrats should have been like, no, we're not supporting him. He's a socialist. Or they could have just said flat out communist. Like, no, we're not like, this cannot be our future. And they should have got all the Democrats on board, rank and file, and fought against this guy. That's what they should have done. And they should have condemned him instead of being like, oh, pussyfooting around, well, not really wanting to endorse him, but not wanting to say that they weren't going to. He is now a pillar of their party. And he is a shining example for them on what can be. Which is crazy. Which is crazy with his background. Just not really having a real job, being super elitist. Like people talk about billionaires and wanting to tax the rich and stuff. Like he has pictures with Alex Soros, who collects, Democrats like their Pokemon. Like, so how can you have a eat the rich mentality and you're hanging out with George Soros's kid? Like, it doesn't make any sense if you want to be consistent. It doesn't make any sense if you want to be consistent. For all of you out there who want to flee from Virginia and maybe New Jersey or New York City or just New York State, maybe in general, FYI, you can't. Please do not do that if you're going to just have Democrat opinions on school choice and taxes and abortion and all the other kind of stuff. If you're going to still be blue, just stay where you're at and you live with the consequences of your actions and the consequences of your policies. Do not go somewhere else and make another area blue, and then everybody else around you got to suffer. You got to change your mind. You have to stop and ask yourself, like, how did we get here? How did we get here? So he's ready to this is a turning point, I think, for Democrats. For sure. And they can't not claim him. He won the Democrat primary fair and square, and then they tried their Hail Mary with Andrew Cuomo, and it didn't end up working out.
I think he missed an opportunity. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. And I think that Mamdani is the one you need to hear from tonight. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, can I get on this train with him or not? Is he going to include me? Is he going to be more of a class warrior even in office? I think he missed a chance tonight to open up and bring more people into the tent. I think his tone was sharp. I think he was using the microphone in a way that he was almost yelling. And that's not the Mamdani that we've seen on TikTok and the great interviews and stuff like that. So I felt like there's a little bit of a character switch here where the warm, open, embracing guy that's close to working people was not on stage tonight, and there was some other voice on stage. That said, he's very young, and he just pulled off something that's very, very difficult. And I wouldn't write him off, but I think he missed an opportunity to open himself up tonight, and I think that will probably cost him going forward.
What do you mean cost him going forward? Like, maybe he can't go any higher in politics, but he just became the mayor of New York. Like, he just won. Like, he achieved something pretty incredible, pretty darn incredible. So and he's like, oh, that was not the Mamdani that we've seen on TikTok. He's this guy I follow retweeted, said, "You got to be kidding me with this." Van Jones thought the globalizer intifada guy who wants to seize property and defund the police was actually a happy-go-lucky unifier because he made some TikTok videos. Yeah, it's really stupid. It's really stupid. We'll be happy with what you got, guys. Enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts. And Mamdani, he excelled with people with degrees, like the highly educated folks and stuff. You know, I'm not surprised. He did very well with women. Women like killed the GOP, man. Zohran Mamdani, 84% of women aged 18 to 29. That's crazy. That's a crazy high number. The Awfuls is a fluent white female liberals. They're gonna ruin some cities and probably some states, man. The GOP, after, I don't know if people remember this too well, but in 2018, when we had the midterm elections, that was like the year of the white liberal woman as well. They got a lot of white women to pose as if they were centrists, and they just, and it was like a copy and paste edit, like across the country and stuff, of like white women with dark hair. Just like, that was the year that Haley Stevens in Michigan rose, and Alyssa Slotkin and Gretchen Whitmer, and our whole, top of the ticket in Michigan were females. And there were a lot of suburban women who didn't care for Trump too much, didn't like him, didn't like his tone, and we talked the other day about how people vote for who they like. There's people who will vote for people who they don't like, if they like their policies, but people firstly want to vote for people who they like. And there's a lot of people who felt like Trump was mean, and didn't like his rhetoric and tone and whatnot. And when I would mention that, or different people would mention that, there'd be some suburban white woman who loves Trump, like, no, I love Trump. So, okay, well, your anecdote doesn't erase the fact that there's real data that says this is a problem area here. And I think that's going to continue to be a problem. I mean, for sure, GOP got to do something. GOP got to do something. Anyway, he won. He won. I want to show you guys this clip here about the California election and Prop 50. This is really interesting.
The yes vote in particular with Prop 50. The reason voters said they voted yes on Prop 50, 82% of the case, 8 out of 10 voters say it was to counter the GOP changes, not because they saw it was the best way to draw those district lines. Now, if you go back and look at those who said no to the vote, they said their reasoning to do so was that they saw this as not the best way to draw those district lines, while only 34% said it was to stop the Democrats from adding seats in Congress. A couple other things we're taking away from what voters said there in California. We asked the voters and how they would actually like to see these lines drawn. The irony of this, Trace, is that 9 out of 10 voters, even more so, said they'd like to see this done by a nonpartisan commission, not the party in power. Well, that was preempted with the outcome of this vote. The yes vote in particular with
You know how sometimes, a lot of the times actually, you'll hear Democrats say things like, oh, Republican women, they're voting against their own interests, or, oh, you're a black woman and you vote Republican, you're voting against your own interests. I'm like, one, you need to ask me what I actually care about, why I'm voting the way that I vote, and what, like, you find out what my actual interests are and don't just assume things. But the people in California literally like voted the opposite way of what they want. So a little background, they took the power to draw the lines out of the hands of the legislature and into like an independent commission. And they started copying that across the country, like in Michigan. There was a ballot initiative, which there was a great marketing campaign on it. They made it really simple. Like it shouldn't be politicians who get to pick their voters and their constituents. It should be the people. The people should get to vote. And it was like Dr. Seuss, really simple, like 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom kind of marketing campaigns to the people. And I know that there were Republicans who voted for it because they thought because they marketed it as like, we need to get rid of gerrymandering. And so they thought it was going to get rid of like major dim districts in Michigan. Like at the time I was in the 14th district, and that was an 80-20 district. So they thought that voting yes and creating the independent commission would get rid of stuff like that. And it was like, no, you made a mistake. So, and that was another instance where the Republicans were just really, really outvoted. I mean, not outvoted, they were outvoted, but they were outspent a lot, and the messaging just wasn't good. Similar to like the Prop 3 with the abortion ballot that also got, passed and stuff in Michigan. They had so much more money than the right, and they ended up changing our constitution. But anyway, California, they took it out of the hands of the legislature, and a commission picks the lines. They fought to make that happen, and Gavin Newsom wanted to change the lines and gerrymander the state more to carve out more seats for Democrats and add more like seats in the House to make sure that the Republicans wouldn't have a majority. So it was a pure power flex, and he was able to pull it off. And I guess him campaigning like, hey, we need to stop Republicans, so go ahead and vote for this so we can stop Republicans. I guess that was good enough for the Democrats, and then they went out there and they voted for that. But it's funny because they are betraying their ideals, because they believe that the commission is what should draw the lines. And now that's not going to be the case. So they're able to rig the game in favor of Democrats. And Gavin Newsom, he does have this victory, and he's encouraging other Democrat states to do the same. So it's just funny. Like 92% of the voters are like, no, we shouldn't have it be the party in power who decides that. It should be the commission. Vote blue no matter who. That's what this is. Vote blue no matter who. They don't care. They don't care. The most disturbing win, though, it would have been a pleasant surprise if this failed in California. It would have been a pleasant surprise if Zoran didn't win, but at the same time, you still get Cuomo, and he's awful too. And I think Trump saying go vote for Cuomo probably, I would assume, I know that maybe the goal was to try to get Republicans to vote for him. Um, but it probably still turned off a lot of Democrats who just hate Trump's guts too. But the saddest win of the night was probably Jay Jones winning in Virginia, because Jay Jones had those horrific texts about wishing the death of a political opponent's children so they could watch them die and perhaps change their views on different political issues. And that's bad enough, like the text messages he had there, but also he was like doing what was like 115 miles per hour, and he got pulled over, and he ended up doing community service with his own campaign to get out of like being in trouble. So I'm just there's all these things that are wrong, excuse me, with this particular candidate, and he's going to be the top law enforcement of the state. And how can Republicans feel like they're going to get some sort of justice out of this human being when he's someone who's so partisan and so blinded and really said some evil things, and then really doesn't believe in justice and accountability for himself? I mean, that what a trash thing to do as far as with the one is just, it's so dangerous to speed like that, and then to get off of it basically by just working for yourself. It's really gross. And that's who is going to be the top cop. And I saw a lot of people from Virginia say that they are really sick about this. And I think it is embarrassing. I'm going to just be legit with you. I mean, is it more embarrassing than my attorney general? I don't know. I don't know. I'm in Michigan. If y'all haven't looked up Dana Nessel, look up Dana Nessel. But it is just alarming. But some people didn't know that they started voting early, like in September, and the text message stuff didn't kind of break till later. So I hate early voting. I think and that's one of the reasons, I guess. Um and it just makes elections vastly more expensive to have them like so early, and people having to watch polls and do all this stuff like so long. It should just be an election day, in my opinion. Um, and what if you want to change your vote? What if more information comes to light, like the text messages or whatever? So, it's a real shame, and I was hoping that Democrats would do the right thing. I didn't think that they would, so I'm not disappointed by anything. I'm not disappointed by a darn result. But I was hoping that Democrats would do the right thing and not vote for this person. So I think it's really bad for the state. I think it's really bad for the country. And you might be saying, well, why do you seem kind of chipper? I don't know if I seem chipper, but I'm not down about it. I don't know. My faith is in the Lord, and I'm like, well, everybody just needs Jesus anyway. So that's I guess in a lot of ways that's what I like to focus on, and I believe that can lead to radical change, because if you think about it, a lot of the politics on the left are really steeped in covetousness. Like Zoran Mamdani is pushing covetousness, and um the whole eat the rich mentality, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Just because someone has something doesn't mean that you have the right to take it from them, which he ought to know, because he's lived a very privileged lifestyle himself. So but he believes what he believes, which he mostly will push this stuff to undermine the West and Israel, in pushing communism stuff. That's really what it's about, destabilizing the West. He doesn't really love the way that we do things here. So anyway, while all this stuff was going on, there's a lot of infighting on the right. And, Ben Shapiro did a show the other day where he called out Tucker Carlson for having Nick Fuentes on a show. And if you haven't watched it, Ben has a lot of receipts. I think it's worth watching if you haven't. But I think it's important to call out if people are unaware of some of the tactics that Nick has been doing throughout the years and what Tucker has been doing throughout the years. And he's a I don't know. I definitely don't like some of the pro Russia stuff. I really don't like when folks try to drive a wedge between, like, if I don't know, if you don't like anything, if you don't like Israel or whatever, that's fine. If you're but I'm suspicious of people who want to drive a wedge between, like, Jews and Christians and take issue with the Judeo-Christian values, or evangelicals. Like Tucker said the other day that he hates Christian Zionists more than anyone else, and Zionists are just people who believe that Israel has a right to exist and those people have a right to be there in that land. It doesn't mean anything more than that. If you have that kind of attitude while you're, like, pacifying Islam and you're making it seem like Sharia law isn't that big of a deal and so on, I'm very suspicious of you, because I think the two things that are so dangerous right now to the West is Islam and communism. And so I think it's important that we push back against those things, that we don't undermine the West and try to do revisionist history with World War II and make it seem like Churchill was the villain, and all kinds of ideas that Tucker's been kind of platforming and letting just kind of hang around in the atmosphere. And I think these things need to be addressed. I don't think they need to be spreading in the right, because one, it's important we need to build coalitions, but at the same time, if you lose, like, your kind of central identity, and what does it matter if you do win? What does it matter if you win if you don't have the same kind of identity and goals that you had before, because the tent is so massive and isn't unified? Like, what are we even unifying over, I guess, is the question we need to have when we have a big kumbaya moment. But a lot of these people that folks have been calling out, they've been calling out and attacking other people for a long time. Tucker's been attacking Ben Shapiro for a long time. So how come Ben can't lay out his receipts? He had a much better case to be upset with Tucker than Tucker had when he started attacking Ben. And let me there's a clip of going around of Brett Cooper, and I was disappointed to see it, and I think she's smarter than this, but here we go.
You are so blinded by your ridiculous, insane hatred of Tucker Carlson that you cannot see how irresponsible and hypocritical you are being. I mean, these tweets from Ted Cruz, I'm going to read you next, are a great example of this. So just a month ago, he tweeted this. He said, "They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you. Political violence is a left-wing phenomenon. Enough is enough. We need to shut it down." And then in response to Fuentes and Tucker this week, he tweeted this: "Trump's bombing of the Ayatollah's nuclear facilities made the little Nazi mad. Good." So now you're turning around and you're calling somebody that you don't like a Nazi. You're doing this out of blind rage because you're so angry that the conservative base's attitudes are rapidly changing, that Nick Fuentes is getting national attention. And so you have turned around and in response, you are compromising your own values in anger, which is such a dangerous precedent to set. And unfortunately for you guys, yes, the attitudes are changing. So again, it makes sense why this group is incredibly frantic.
So it's not just a matter of well, let me say this. When the left says that Trump or someone is a fascist or a Nazi or whatever. Of course, Trump isn't a fascist, and of course, Trump isn't a Nazi. And they are saying stuff like that to mobilize their people, to make people very afraid or hateful of Trump, to make the world feel so chaotic. And I'm not saying it. I think it's kind of a reach to say that they're prepping people to go out and do violence or whatever. I'm not saying that there aren't maybe some nefarious actors. I don't think maybe that's. I would like to give the Democrats the benefit of the doubt and say that's not some kind of long term plan of their people being so crazy that they go out and actually commit violence and assassinations and so on. Unfortunately, we have seen attempts, and things like that. But do they want to call you a Nazi so they will delegitimize you and see you as such a monster that you have to do anything to stop and defeat them? Yeah, sure. Is that why Ted Cruz called Nick Fuentes a Nazi? No. Like, if the shoe fits, then I think it's appropriate to say it. There's all kinds of clips with Nick saying all kinds of there's one right there. Team Hitler. That's with Nick. And I had showed a clip of Nick saying, that Hitler was right and the Holocaust didn't happen and stuff. There's clips of him saying that he loves Hitler, and then his groypers start shouting Christ is King. But here's one of his rants.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. Anyway.
So, I don't know. I would think that it's a good thing that people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro didn't want more people to be sucked into Nick's sort of ideology. And people can say their views are changing about Israel, whatever, but there's people who don't like Jews, or apparently black people and women and all sorts of other stuff. And if it isn't addressed, the left will just have more cannon fodder to be like, oh God, here's some actually crazy stuff. When the group chat leak thing happened, was it 2-3 weeks ago? And everybody was talking about it, and I talked about I didn't like JD Vance's, response to it and whatnot. They were hoping, I'm sure that they were hoping, and the media was hoping, Democrats were hoping that story would take heat off of Jay Jones. Because it was like, how can Republicans defend this sort of chats and the people saying all this kind of crazy stuff, and then, come so hard for Jay Jones? Now, of course, Jay Jones is running to be the Attorney General of Virginia. So I don't think those things are the same, but it's an issue when you don't want to call it out. It's a real problem that it existed, that people were saying this stuff in the chat, and it's like Republican professionals. It's not like it was you messaging your sibling or something, or you even, I don't know, saying crazy stuff while playing Call of Duty. You're in a Republican group chat, and you're like 30, 40 years old, or late 20s, 30s, or whatever, because I think you're kicked out when you get 40, saying all this kind of crazy stuff. And people get to write articles and talk about how, like, hey, these are people who are supposed to be like the future of the GOP, and this is what they think. And then when people call it out and say, yeah, that kind of stuff needs to be condemned, and people are like, oh my God, how dare you take the time to condemn them? No enemies to my right. We just have to defeat the left. Okay, well, no, enemies to my right is like vote blue no matter who. And you could be like, we have to achieve victory at any cost, but at the same time, New York is now run by a socialist who has a transition team of like, I think they're all female socialists. So I don't want that to be the future of the GOP, where there's only like these neo-Nazis on one side and you know, radical Islamic, you know, globalized intifada person on the other side. I don't want that to be the future and the only options. Because that's how radical the parties have gone. We have to correct course. And I'm not saying like just write people off forever, but we need to have conversations and debunk crazy stuff that people believes and try to get them on the right path. But ignoring the stuff as just like, oh, people are being edgy and not dealing with the brain rot, we're not going to be in a good place. So and you have to remember that we're all like chronically online too. Like people in the real world go out and touch grass, and there's plenty of people who maybe don't know about Nick Fuentes and all this different kind of stuff and whatever, and didn't play a huge role in the election. Because at the end of the day, people do need to knock doors, they do need to make phone calls, and just running your podcast isn't going to be enough. You have to actually mobilize people to do stuff. So we have an obligation to speak up. We have an obligation to speak up. We do. And the Democrats should have put a stop to this kind of stuff before. And now Zoran is their future. And I know because AOC is their darling. And Bernie was, you know, a couple years ago, he's running against Hillary. He tried to run against Biden, and he was hanging in there for a while. But with Zoran's success, there's going to be other people who want more like him to prop up in other places. The Democrats should have got their base in line, had to sit down with the young people, not be terrified of them, but try to have like real conversations with them. I know many of them are irrational and loud or whatever, but you should have tried to get them on the right path. And now you're going to be cannibalized by these people. I don't want that to happen to the right, because we will not win anyway. The whole country, Trump won every swing state, but it's not because people just loved him so much. A lot of people just knew he was less crazy than the other people. That Kamala was too radical, and we were not that far, you know, down the road of no point of no return or whatever in the US. So they voted for him, someone who did the job before, because they didn't trust Kamala or whatever reason. But what are we going to do going forward? What are we going to do going forward? Because if we're both sides are crazy, they'll just vote with the devil they know. And then a lot of people on the right, you'll never get like the evangelicals, like hardcore ones, they'll just stay home. And a lot of them do anyway. So you cannot let the right get like the you cannot let the right get like the far left. We'll just lose, and basically you'll be a one party country. We'll never win again. So do some actual groundwork. We gotta have a come to Jesus moment with some of the crazy stuff going on in the party and the rhetoric going on and the brain rot. We have to fix that. And we have to do what Charlie did. We have to actually go out and talk to people and convince them to think differently, vote differently. And that takes time. And real conversations, not just like TikTok videos and memes. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys on today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. You guys can go to blacktnews.com/listen well, you guys can go to blacktnews.com to check out articles, videos, etc. You guys can go to the donate page if you guys want to support, if you like what I do. And if you can, I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Someone said, what's crazy is Dim is embracing woke ideology, yet Mamdani is a Muslim, Islam notoriously anti-LGBTQ. But he's the right. He's brown enough to be oppressed. They don't care. They don't care. They're useful idiots. They're useful idiots is what the KGB would refer to them as. They don't care. They don't care. It's crazy to me that people will rag on Christianity so much and just ignore Islam like it's a religion of peace that was started by a warmonger who married a 6-year-old. Sure, guys, but they want to rag on the Bible all day long. It's insane. But they're useful idiots. We just got to keep having conversations. Like I said, I trust in the Lord. I thank God for so many like Christian apologists who are going after Islam and taking it to the streets and having conversations with folk. And that's a good thing. And that'll, hopefully we can change enough hearts and minds, at least while I'm still on this planet. If we got to be on this ghetto planet for a bit more longer, I don't want it to be too ghetto, But anyway, you guys can check out my book Bigger. I was so excited today. I was on this. I told you guys I was on the Steve Gruber show yesterday, very early in the morning. I guess it wasn't super early, but I had to get up and like move my equipment to my sister's studio so we could manage the stuff. And someone had listened to the radio interview and reached out and wanted me to do like a family. We'll come read my book during like a literacy night or whatever. It was a teacher, so I was excited because I do want to read and sell my books and stuff, and go into the schools and hopefully go into bookstores and other things like that. So it's cool. I'm seeing things happen and it's neat, and I'm grateful for the interviews and other things like that and other doors that it will open. And if you haven't gotten the book, it's a really good book. Beautiful illustrations and lively colors and good messages and stuff. There's a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube where you guys can click on it and you guys can check it out and see it. God bless you guys. You're not going to see me for the next couple days. So I'll still be posting different things on socials. So make sure that you're following me across Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. They'll probably be like in shorts and reels and things like that. I won't have I don't know if I'll have time to. I wanted to have like different like videos to kind of air while I was out and about, but I don't know if I'll have time to film anything because I haven't had time to film anything yet. And but just keep an eye out for different stuff. I'll still try to post here or there. God bless you guys, and I'll see you when I see you. And I'm so excited to let you know different things that have been going on. But like I said, I had got a little vacay for next few days with my fam. So I'll see you